guys? It's your boy Kenny C, boy Tito Kenny C, and welcome to the very first episode of Kenn Talk with. Now, Kenn Talk is a show that I did on my YouTube channel, which is just basically me talking about things that are in my head. And I thought, well, I think it's better to share them to share the conversation with others. So I'm starting this show called Kenn Talk with, and I'm just gonna talk with my friends, my family, or people that I trust with. And for the very first episode, I'm talking with my one of my best friends in college, Gianna. So everyone, welcome Gianna. Hello. Hi everyone.
Am I live?
Yes, you're live. We're live.
Hi.
Okay, so
Hi everyone. For the strangers watching, I'm Gianna, and I was born in Queens, New York, but I grew up in the Philippines, so I'm a dual citizen.
Wow.
I've been here in the US for 6 years. So I'm a creative director for a marketing agency, and I usually would visit the Philippines once a year, but now that everything's crazy with travel, I don't know when I'm gonna get to visit again, but hopefully as soon as all the craziness is over, I'll get to see my friends in the Philippines.
When did you move? Like, you were born in Queens. When did you move to the Philippines?
When I was 2 years old.
2 years
So,
old, and then you
my parents are here
and
in the
you moved back
Philippines already.
24, 5, or something. You moved back to New York.
Yeah,
Something like
Mhm.
early.
Mhm.
So how is it living in New York now with pandemic? And I think a lot of how is it living in New York with the pandemic?
I think it's gotten a little better, but yeah, like it's still kind of crazy here with the people. Like when I went out once to the park, so everyone's social distancing. There were people who weren't wearing masks, and yeah, it's just like that there are people who don't really believe that there's something going on.
Oh,
So yeah, it's just crazy to think that it could happen to anyone too.
yeah, I think a lot of people are just thinking na kasi it won't affect them because they're healthy, their immune system's good, but I don't think they understand that they could infect others. I mean, they could be the one to cause someone else's death. It's just a very selfish thinking na, hey, I'm
Yeah.
healthy, so I'm good. But but now, because I think there's a heightened how do you say, social awareness because of racial issues now. I mean, the
Yeah.
racial issues has always been there. I think everywhere around the world, it's been going on ever since. Especially in the United States, because it's like a melting pot. But now it's just more heightened because I think people are just more aware, primarily because of social media and the video cameras are everywhere. So I think there's just a heightened awareness for racial issues. So how does it
Yeah.
feel being a Filipino living in New York?
Well, for me, I don't really feel lonely or different because there's a big network of people from the Philippines here and even people from Ateneo. So yeah, like we usually get together, and now of course it's just online. But then yeah, like with the friends that I've made over the years from different nationalities, I just like they don't really know that much about the Philippines, so I just try to tell them about our beaches and the good things. But then yeah, like when we go to a Filipino restaurant, it's also nice to be able to share my culture with them and explain like things about the Philippines that they don't know, because most of the time they just know Manny Pacquiao, Duterte, or the jokes about like all the nurses here are Filipino. So that's the limit of their knowledge about the Philippines. And then yeah, like I like being able to share my culture with them and at the same time learn about their cultures.
I think it's funny because like as Asians, like, as Filipinos, we're very conscious of other Asian ethnicities like Chinese, Japanese, Koreans. But when we go abroad, for example, for me, when I stayed in Hungary for a while, and everyone just thought I was Chinese, but I found it funny because
Yeah.
I'm here in the Philippines. Everyone knows I'm not Chinese. I'm far from it in my facial features, but they don't distinguish Asians.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's
They
the same
think
because
Asians are just one group or automatically Chinese. I
yeah,
usually don't like get Filipino. Like they usually think I'm Chinese or Korean because yeah, it's like I have to explain to them that there are Filipinos who look more Hispanic, there are Filipinos who look more Chinese, there are Filipinos who like look more native, and yeah, like we're all Filipino.
yeah. But did you have a difficult time like transitioning from the Philippines? I mean, knowing where you come from. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Coming from a very privileged standpoint, you know, you studied in Ateneo and you come from a I mean, good family, and at the same time, you know, when you're in the Philippines, you have you have people that are offering their services to you, providing their services to you. But now you're living in New York, doing the grind, working. Was it difficult to transition?
Yeah, I will say that I felt like I had it easier in the Philippines, and maybe I was sheltered too. But then at the same time, here it's like I have more freedom. And then yeah, let's be real about it. If you're in the Philippines and your family is able to afford an Ateneo education, you're really in a better place compared to most people in the Philippines. So yeah, I when I came here, I would say that it was a different feeling to just you would think it's just like a normal person or whatever because yeah in the Philippines you're in the top like
Yeah.
yeah the top of society or whatever and then here it's like you're not gonna be like the Rockefellers or the Vanderbilts. It's like that's a different world already for us and
Exactly.
and then yeah in the Philippines you have the helpers, but here like I'm the one doing like the cooking and the laundry myself, so I would feel like oh it would be like something that I wouldn't even think about when I was in the Philippines, like oh I'll get home and then my clothes are clean, and now it's like oh okay an extra task, but it's okay, you get used to it. And oh another thing is when I like the people here they usually have student loans, so
Mm,
when I tell them that like oh I never really had to worry about paying for college because my parents paid for that, it's like a shock to them. So yeah like little things that you think about that oh it's actually a privilege that you never had to worry about it.
yeah,
And
yeah, and I think
yeah that's what
and also like when you move, they don't really know Ateneo. They don't know what school you come from
Mhm.
or the businesses that you have because I mean it's a totally different world. And
Mhm.
so what since we mentioned privilege, and I think this is the topic of this shall we say a podcast, a live podcast. What is privilege? What do you think privilege is?
So for me, privilege is being able to wake up in a safe and clean home, to have enough food in the fridge, and even to have disposable income to pursue your hobbies and interests. So yeah, it's like if you have extra things to enjoy, that's really a privilege. And it's also a privilege to have love, friendship, freedom, and health.
Agree.
And we shouldn't take those things for granted. So yeah, if you have those things, you should acknowledge them, and it's your responsibility also to share them with others. So in the world that we live in, the idea is like, oh, if somebody has more, there's really people who have less. So if we can share with those people, I know that it's gonna take a long time before we fix society, and yeah, like it's an ongoing process too. Like it's not just gonna be an overnight thing where we say like, oh, everybody's equal. So yeah, it's just really for us to be able to share our wealth with other people.
Yeah, and you mentioned an interesting point because privilege is not just about money, the economic side of it. You mentioned about having the opportunity to have friends, to love, to spend time with your family. So I think that's privilege. There's this one viral video of a teacher teaching the students about privilege through an through a task, or shall I say, through an activity. Like he made all his students.
Yeah, I think I've
the,
seen
the, the,
that.
the race. You know that when he said that
Yeah, yeah. Like people
task if
really
you have
set
a
up
race,
there
and
and
then
they have the advantage.
step forward if you
Mm.
have parents, if you have so I think privilege is just being having a head start of like you were born into having more than others. But there are but I think when you're born you don't know that you're privileged because you're just born with it and you think it's normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, for me, I thought that my parents especially uh, gave me the mindset when I was young that we were poor. My mom kept telling me if you're poor, that I should work hard. And then I started knowing that I was in a different standing. I mean, economics wise with others when I started um, hanging out with my friends in their houses. You just see that there are differences. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing for them. I'm just saying that I realized that how privileged I am compared to others. And then because I studied in a public school when I in grade school, and then I moved to Ateneo in high school, and that's when I saw that there are different levels of privilege because I was a little bit well off compared to when I was in my grade school. Then I moved to Ateneo High School, and then I realized I saw so many other people that have more advantages than me, and I thought I was the less privileged. And then in college, especially, I meet people like you. Just kidding. There are levels to it, and I think that when I moved also from the province to Ateneo High School, I saw that there are different levels in terms of privilege. That when you move, you could get less privileges, but at the same time, I was still blessed enough. I was still privileged enough to be able to move in the first place, to go to Ateneo in the first place. And I guess for you also, I mean, you were, I mean, you're not exactly the rich girl in New York, but you're still privileged compared to others other Filipinos who can't even, who don't have a choice to go to the United States.
Mm.
I guess that's privilege, the choice,
Yeah.
to have choices.
Yup, I agree. And it's also that feeling that like you were a big fish in a small pond and then
Right.
moving to a different place, out of your comfort zone. But that's how you grow. You just if you're exposed to things that you're not comfortable with,
Correct.
you learn more.
Um, but what should you do what should you do when you're what should you do when you realize that you're privileged? Because now, especially in social media, a lot of people uh, say the word privilege as if it's a negative thing, like it's an insult or you
Yeah.
privileged brat or whatever. But I don't think it's your fault if you're privileged. And you're born with it. But I guess the question is, what should you do when you know you're privileged?
Yeah, that's a thing that I was thinking when you asked me. Like, it's nothing that you should be ashamed of. Because, yeah, like, for me, I, before growing up, I did have those feelings of like, oh, why is it, like, I'm guilty about it. Like, oh, why is it me who has all these things? What did I do to deserve this? But then it took me a while to realize that, like, I should be thankful and my parents were able to give me a good life and they worked hard, they earned their money legitimately. So it's like, what's bad about that? It should be not something that people would, like try to make fun of or try to bring you down about. Because there's really like this feeling that oh sorry na Ateneo you know that like
Right.
when people hear that you came from a better school like compared to them they'll try to like bring you down in that way or maybe that's their way of relating to you like maybe some people they don't really mean to make it sound offensive but it comes across that way
Mm-hmm.
that like oh, I'm sorry, you're better than me, like that. But you're trying to not brag or anything about it. So maybe that's also why I had like feelings like I didn't really wanna tell too many people about my background, and people just think that like I'm shy or aloof. But then the reality was like I was kind of worried that like, oh, maybe some people might think that I'm bragging. But then yeah, like for the people who do know me, they know that like there's nothing that I want to be bragging about, because that's just really what I grew up having, right?
I think that's it. I mean, that's part of you. That's who you are. So I think there's shame attached to it, because guilt. I should say there's a feeling of guilt that why do I have more compared to others? But I think if that's, I mean, that's who you are. You're born with it. I don't think it's your fault. I think the wrong, and others think that it's your obligation to give. Well, I think that's a noble thing.
Part of it.
To share. Yeah,
You give what you're able to share,
yeah,
but
you're able to share. But at the same time, I think it's really like an obligation, because I think it's better if you give on your own volition and not because it's
yeah,
required
for
or
sure.
expected. And
Yeah,
no,
people are.
if you want, I mean, that's the ignition education that we were taught. Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think the least you can do is at least not think that you're better off than others. Because I think that's the problem with other people when given a privileged status, they think I'm better off than you, and they disregard the fact that they were given a head start. For example, if you become a successful, let's say, successful businessman, right? And then you think that I'm successful because I worked so hard, I worked my ass off, and you're not successful because you didn't work hard, or you're lazy. I think that's the wrong attitude when you think that you're better off with others, because you're not considering that you were also given a head start. There were also people behind your success, and that you just had advantages, whether it be money, or the skills that you were given with, or the talent. So there.
I definitely think that when you know that you have privilege, you should use it to uplift and empower other people.
Yes, I
Because
agree.
yeah, like, why are you like blessed with this if you're not gonna use it for others? And you should also enjoy a little bit of it, because what's the point of having that if you worked hard for it and you're not enjoying it?
Correct. I think there's nothing wrong with enjoying what you have. I think it's just wrong when you brag.
You're
I think
grateful
that's it.
and
That's it. When
you're humble about it.
yeah, you're humble about it, and you don't think less of others just because you're given more. And
Yeah.
if you share, and if you share what you have, then I think that's a good thing. But you touched a very interesting point when you said that when you're privileged, that what you should do is find a way to make this world a better place, to leave your legacy, or something like that. I didn't catch the exact words, but to that point, that you should try to make this world a better place.
I feel like we're all doing what we can right now to survive. There are people, like, because we work with people in the Philippines. Of course, I know that the internet there isn't always the best. So, yeah, like you just have to be patient with them when you know that like some things will experience delay.
Yeah, I know. And just a side topic. Have you heard of what happened with Liza Soberano?
No,
Oh, wait.
is that like the PLDT
Yeah, the
tweeted
PLDT. That's
and
exactly
then they gave it to her right away? Okay.
yeah. Speaking of the internet, so I think that's a clear sign of privilege when companies are trying to give you rather than you paying them.
I feel like it's also to their benefit, because like, oh, if it's a celebrity, then of course she'll tweet about it, and then
Yeah, but
Like
it
the
backfired
suppliers
though.
will
It backfired
monitor,
because
will know that their services are going, but they're not really. If it's just catering to a specific group.
yeah, exactly. It backfired
Or,
because PLDT is not really giving that service to their customers. So if you're gonna give a service to a certain celebrity, it should be the same service that to your paying customers.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's a side topic. So any more thoughts?
I think I shared everything that I would want to share about my experience here. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that's it. I think just to summarize, privilege is when you're given advantages over others, whether it be economics, relationships, having a family, that having people that love you, having a home, being in a school, just having advantages over others is a privilege. And I think the least you can do is to not brag about it, to not think that you're a better person just because you're privileged. And the best thing that you can do is to share that privilege and find a way to make this world a better place. So I guess that's it. Thank you, Gianna, for for having this talk with me. To have it the first episode of Kenn Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Nasabi ko rin, thanks for having me. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. To our viewers, this will be uploaded on YouTube just in case you want to catch it, just in case you weren't able to catch the live session. So yeah, see you and thank you.